We've kicked off a Detroit Promise.
If you ask Mayor Mike Duggan, his city is like the comeback kid.
What you have in this city is a bunch of really hardworking people who don't spend a lot of time feeling sorry for ourselves and are working on turning the city around.
2 years after Detroit became the biggest American city ever to go bankrupt, the Motor City is on the mend. But post-bankruptcy, it is still battered and bruised. Unemployment is more than twice the national average, but there's a sense of revival here.
We have a long way to go. I mean, we still have 30,000 vacant houses in this city that we have to get rid of, but 2 years ago we had 40,000. Now that we're heading in the right direction, you can get a house and you can get a storefront and open a business far cheaper than any other major city in America.
But the financial crisis and rampant foreclosures hit Detroit hard, and many here still point their finger squarely at Wall Street. A man they likely didn't expect to see a lot of in their city is the CEO of the biggest bank in the country, JPMorgan's Jamie Dimon.
JPMorgan Chase was founded in Detroit. We're the biggest bank here, consumer, commercial, large corporate. So it's an important town to us. And of course, we watched Detroit become a train wreck for 20 years. And so, my heart goes out for the people in Detroit. But when we saw this mayor, and this mayor just practical and thoughtful and not sanctimonious and not ideological, let's turn the lights on, let's get sanitation better, let's take down some abandoned homes, let's rehab some abandoned homes, let's get businesses back in town. We said we're all in to help this guy and try to help one of our hometowns.
JPMorgan is now 2 years into a $100 million investment in Detroit. The money is funding loans for minority-owned small businesses and going towards job training and affordable housing. So what do you say to those who point to Wall Street, to the big banks, and say, you were part of creating this mess, the mortgage meltdown, the foreclosures?
JPMorgan obviously made mistakes and stuff like that. But to me, we were also steadfast. So if you talk about JPMorgan, we were here in the darkest moments for everybody at all time. We didn't run, we didn't hide. All the big banks rolled over trillions of dollars of loans when the marketplace wasn't willing to. So, but look, we've made mistakes. We try to admit the mistakes, learn from them, and move on.
You don't normally have a banker call up a city in distress saying, I want to help you. But it has been remarkable, the sincerity of what they've done. We sit in the room together and we brainstorm together what we need to do next.
So for those who might point to it and say, this is a PR move by a big bank post-crisis, you say?
Yeah, I just look at what people do. JPMorgan Chase is embedded here. They're a central part of this city's comeback.
I thought it could be the great American recovery. It was so an American disaster, but somehow we all pulled together at the right point, and pull it out at the worst zone.
Did you guys think of leaving Detroit altogether?
Absolutely. I was seriously considering moving to Washington, D.C.
We're fighters. We stayed and fought through it, for sure.
I want to see what type of driver is in that
Angel and Martin Paris stayed because after maxing out credit cards and borrowing from friends and family to keep their electrical company running, they got a $100,000 loan from the Detroit Development Fund, financed by JPMorgan's Entrepreneurs of Color Fund.
Before, basically we were surviving day to day. We would use our own personal credit cards, whatever personal cash we had.
It actually took us to the next level.
The more they grow, the more they hire, and each new electrician job at their company comes with a $30 an hour wage. Martin Paris says he's grateful for this loan that they've received, and he wants to see other big businesses as a whole do more. The role of big business today, sort of what is it when you look at the broader economy?
I don't think they're helping enough. Helping the small guys or small minority businesses or businesses, period.
What's the role of big business in helping turn around these American cities?
Yeah, so I think it's big companies, and I say collaboration. Businesses can help. It can help schools train people so they'll hire the people.
What happens if America waits for things to get worse?
It's always better to deal with it quicker. Unfortunately, sometimes the body politic is unable to do that. You have to the train crash or the car crash before you put up the stop sign. But instead of sitting down and looking for solutions, we take ideological point of views and blame the other person. And that is always the train wreck.
Detroit's public schools are on their knees. They are in utter disrepair. How can Detroit truly rise if its schools don't get better?
This is probably one of the biggest disasters, not just Detroit, a lot of inner city schools in America. Americans should understand that 50% or something like that of the kids in inner city schools, often poor, often minority, don't graduate, and the ones that do don't necessarily have the skills to have a job. That is the biggest disgrace in this country. We should be ringing an alarm bell on every hilltop and every mountaintop and saying this shouldn't be allowed. Among those people not graduating, there might be a Steve Jobs or a Barack Obama. We'll never know.
What is key to Detroit's revival is just getting people to stay here, to build businesses, to buy houses, to pay taxes, and to reverse a nearly 6-decade decline in this city's population.
I'm 57 years old. I was born here, and the population of Detroit has dropped every single year I've been alive. But I do believe when the Census Bureau numbers come out next May, we will have reversed that 6-decade decline. I think JPMorgan is going to make a lot of money off of Detroit because they're investing in the city at a time the city's down, and they're going to be a central part of the growth.
Do you see Detroit as a smart investment?
I hope so. You know, look, I mean, if it doesn't work, I'll feel far worse for the people of Detroit than I do for JPMorgan. You know, so, but yes, I hope it can be a little part of turning around this great city.
What's your measure of success?
I'm not gonna, if I had to pick one or two, okay? So
Yep.
the unemployment's gone from 17% to 11 or 10. If it goes to 8, 7, 6, that's success. The mayor talks about the population. If the population is going up, and real estate values. I think there's 60,000 small businesses here, 50,000 minority owned. You know, if you can make to 60,000, 70,000, that can make all the difference.
The real turnaround in the economy will come from all the small entrepreneurs. And you are seeing hundreds of entrepreneurs from the city and from outside the city. I'm a great believer that talent is distributed equally across this country. What isn't distributed equally is opportunity.
Good for you.
In Detroit, one of the most powerful men on Wall Street sees perhaps a lesson for a politically fractured America.
You now have in the city a beautiful example of government, not-for-profit, businesses collaborating to fix it. And you really get a feeling now that Detroit is all in trying to help the people of Detroit, all the people of Detroit. You know, not Democrats versus Republicans, all the people of Detroit.
What is the number one thing you want people watching right now to think when they think of Detroit?
This is going to sound strange, but
Give it to me.
Detroiters really don't care what people outside think. We really don't. We've been beaten up for so long. So you ask that question.
Love that.
You ask that question. It's a funny thought.
That's an honest answer.
No, Detroiters want to feel pride in their city coming back, and I think you're seeing it.
Poppy Harlow, CNN, Detroit.